Hold on. Welcome to the RCVR podcast. I'm Kevin Truss with my co-host,
Sean Moyes.
And Sean, how do you spell your name?
You can spell however you want.
Well, I do spell it however I want. How do you spell it? S-H-A-U-N. In my phone, we've known each other for 20 years. It's S-H-A-W-N. Usually in text messages, I refer to you as S-E-A-N. I refuse to spell it the right way. But for all the listeners out there, little fun fact.
It's all good.
In studio today, Jared, do you want to do the intro?
Yeah, let's have me do it.
Well, let's have you try. I might jump in.
Hey everyone, welcome to the podcast. It's called the RCVR podcast.
All right, I'm going to take over. In studio with us today,
Ryan Clayton.
We have one of the youngest and brightest stars not only in this building but in the state of Utah.
Wow.
Ryan Clayton. We're lucky to have you, and this is a big deal for us. We're big fans.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And by the amount of Instagram followers you are, there's probably quite a few other fans listening in right now because you're kind of a big deal.
Thank you.
Awesome. So to start off, why don't you tell us why you're such a big deal?
Well, first time I met you, you said I look like Zach Wilson, so...
No, I said you look like a better looking Zach Wilson.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Zach would only be so lucky. Now, for everybody who doesn't know who Ryan is, so Ryan is on a team here at Clear Home that has done some pretty amazing things. They've kind of been trailblazers in finding specific lanes and going down them and really like teaching us and helping us learn how to best maximize our time and utilize our resources to create the most amount of credits. And you've done an amazing job at that. But you're also, anytime I meet a girl under the age of 35 who's single, I like to tell her about Ryan Clayton. And you really are one of the most interesting dudes I know. Like for how young you are, you do a lot of cool stuff.
Thank you.
In the last month, let's just talk about the last month.
Okay.
Not only have you put in like millions of dollars of ERC credits, but you've also shot pigs out of helicopters. Mm-hmm. You've also gone to Africa with a bunch of college basketball players and did a camp there. You're pretty like interesting for 21, right? Wait, 21?
21.
Yeah, 21 years old.
21,
okay,
yeah.
Tell us first about Africa.
Okay. I would be happy to. So this is an amazing opportunity, but I actually went 5 years ago with my basketball team to this country in Africa called Mali. It's probably one of the poorest, probably one of the dangerous countries in the world, but we were able to go over there and work on some schools and some villages with water filters. It was actually for an Eagle project, for anyone out there who knows what an Eagle project is. Many people go to an elementary school.
Everyone listening is like, oh my gosh, my Eagle project.
Yeah.
I painted a curb.
Exactly.
I painted a...
That's what I was going to say. A lot of people go paint a curb, go paint something at an elementary school. I was given the opportunity to go to Africa and build water filters for these villages. So that was really cool, and I just fell in love with Africa. My uncle actually went over there, and he saw these 6'10" basketball players who were really bad at basketball, but they were raw. They just didn't have the resources that we have here. So he thought it'd be a cool idea to bring them to America, give them the opportunity to play basketball here with the resources we have. And so there's 6 of them total from this country in Africa, all of them above 6'10". They play at Arizona, Michigan State, BYU, UConn, just won the national championship, North Texas. I'm forgetting one, so sorry if he's listening, but still love him. So what we did this past week is we went back to Africa, went back to their country, and we hosted a basketball camp for all the kids in their in the city that they grew up in. So
cool.
It was really cool just going back there with them. It was their first time back, most of them, in a few years. So it was just cool to be able to have that opportunity to go back with them and see these kids just so happy.
Dude,
it was cool.
That's so awesome. I'm a huge proponent. And Sean, you're actually a person I learned a lot of this from. Of you have to have balance, but balance doesn't mean just like a time I spend an equal amount of time. Balance to me is never time. Like if you're going to balance your time, then it's really hard to ever be passionate or excel at anything. And so balance doesn't mean time, but when you have time with your family, like be very focused on your family. When you have time to do personal cool stuff, do some epic things, right? Like do some cool stuff. And so Ryan, you work really hard. Like by your numbers, you wouldn't know that you were gone for 2 weeks of this month, like whatever. But balance is an interesting thing. But Sean Moyes is one of my favorite examples of that, where when he goes and I'll be like, hey, what'd you do last night? He's like, well, I've never rappelled this 2,000 foot rock cliff that goes into a cave where you actually get to meet the motherfish, and she tells you your future. Like everything he does is like next level. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I like drove by whatever, right? I went and looked at Christmas lights. Like that was epic for me. But no, I just think balance is actually cool. But actually what I want to talk about, are you an Eagle Scout?
I am an Eagle Scout.
What was your Eagle Scout project?
So it was the water filters that we did over in Africa.
Yours was the Eagle
project?
project.
Yeah, that was mine.
Oh gosh, you are the most interesting kid I know.
No. Yeah, I painted a pavilion at a park.
I would have. That's what I would have done too.
I will say this is funny. This is actually
there's one. It was something I did it for an Eagle project. So many kids because I grew up in Utah are doing Eagle projects. Promise you, 3 months later, it got painted again.
That's so funny. So my Eagle project, I was in Seattle. I grew up in Washington, in Redmond, and not a lot of scouting going on in Redmond. There's just like very few people are ready with a tourniquet if you need it. But I was one of them, right? Like I could tie all the knots. But anyways, so my project, I wasn't even close to getting my Eagle award yet. But again, this is seeing opportunities, and this is like recruiting and working smarter, not harder. So in ninth grade, all of a sudden, they came out with a thing. It was brand new. Every ninth grader to go to high school, you had to do, it was like 12 hours of community service, right? And, no one knew what to do. Like everyone was like, what do we even do? So I was like, oh dude, I'm going to do my Eagle project now, and I'm going to recruit every ninth grader, not everyone, but the majority of the ninth graders at my junior high, because ninth grade was junior high where I was, I set up like this giant food drive, and we literally did so much food, because picture every ninth grader at school spending like 12 hours like in front of grocery stores and stuff like that. We did so much food. The food bank was like, we've never really said this, but we got to turn it away. Like you got to go to a different food bank, right? So all I did was coordinate, like utilizing everyone's free labor to do my Eagle project. They didn't even like realize what it was for, right? But my mom made me wear my Scout uniform the whole time, which is appropriate for an Eagle project. Yeah. But I was so embarrassed.
That's so funny.
Anyway, Jared, did you get your Eagle?
I didn't get past tenderfoot.
Did your mom ever do an Eagle project for you though, or
no? Like she pretended just to make myself feel better, because I could never get the merit badges, because like I just wasn't good at it. So, but she pretended, and it made me feel good. So
that's awesome. From now on, Jared's new nickname is Tenderfoot for sure.
That was good. All right, that's a good one.
Thank you, Tenderfoot.
I'll take it.
All right. Well, okay, you're also really good at basketball. We're going to talk about North Carolina in a minute. Okay. But how much of your upbringing with like basketball and sports and stuff, you're one of the most competitive. There's a group of people at this company that are really good looking, really nice, really presentable, but they are the most competitive dudes that you've ever met, right? And you're one, I consider you like in that group of like, man, dude, a killer with a smile, you know? So what is it that made you so competitive? Just like with your personality, and I'm assuming it was sports, but yeah, tell me what made you so competitive.
Yeah, so it goes back all the way down to like when I was a kid. I've just always been competitive. I grew up like I would go play basketball with my neighbors. I just had to be the best out of them. That carried with me through elementary, junior high, and then high school. So I played basketball at Timpanogos for freshman, sophomore year. Transferred to Orem junior, senior year.
Recruited. Go on.
You're recruited. NIL. Just kidding. Keep that out. But yeah, I've just always had that competitive spirit with me. I don't know if it's led to something specific or if it's just something I grew up with, but I've just always had that chip on my shoulder wanting to be the best at whatever I do. So
that's awesome.
Carried with me, yeah.
Good. Well, hey, Sean, any other questions about the background of Ryan Clayton?
No.
I would love to add a story.
Yeah.
Ooh, tell us a story.
Sorry to
Ryan.
cut you off.
And then because we're about to get into more ERC stuff.
Yeah.
But I want the listeners to get to know you a little bit. So tell
Perfect.
us.
So here's a fun story. So I grew up always looking for a way to like hustle people. It was just, I don't know what it was, but it started with basketball cards and sports cards. And that's actually how I met Trost. I was 8 years old at a sports card convention. And I met Trost. And I just remember him just like hyping me up all the time to these other people. And they're just trying to rip me off because I'm this 8-year-old selling cards. So they're always trying to rip me off. But I just remember my first experience of Trost was when I was 8 years old selling baseball cards.
I love that.
That is so
Dang,
funny.
I love that. Yeah.
How crazy is that story?
That's so awesome. I do have one question for you. So obviously you're competitive. You want to win. Are you a good loser? Are you capable of losing well?
I think so.
He's lost to me quite a few times.
I'm asking this question because I think it's going to come up as we talk, like as a personality trait. I want that's the answer I thought I would hear, but yeah, cool. Because we've already covered. You're competitive. You like to win.
Well, yeah. And I one thing I've noticed about Ryan, he actually is a very good loser, but I don't think you actually lose until you stop being willing to compete at something. And I don't think Ryan is ever going to be willing. Like you are way too competitive to quit competing with something, right? So I've beat him at everything we've ever competed in, but I know that he's always down to go again because eventually he might strike, lightning might strike and he might beat me. And that's the chance of him beating me in something is worth more than him quitting competing with me. Do you agree with that, Ryan?
I do agree.
All right. Well, hey, let's get into ERC a little bit because you really are, like I said, you're one of the trailblazers with a couple different things. But now I just want to explain kind of like your background. So when Ryan came on, he came on from the start doing everything from A to Z. And so we didn't have any type of a appointment setting model or closer model or any of those kinds of things. And it was pretty early on in the process where even the doc upload, we were still getting kind of used to that. And so when you started, you are one of the people now keep in mind, everybody, he's one of the top reps in our company, like top 5, like he's up there. And he's consistently, it's not just because he's been around for so long. He's just every week, every month, he's in the top 5, right? But your learning curve actually, it's not like you had success your first week or even your first month. Like tell everybody about your learning curve and like why you didn't give up.
Yeah, I would love to. So I like I mentioned, I'm competitive. I was introduced to this job by Isaac Mon. You guys had him on here. He's top dog. He knows what he's doing. He told me about this opportunity. I saw it as something I can maximize. And I was in a really cool situation with what my dad does for work. So my dad, he networks with a lot of people. So I saw the opportunity. My dad knows a lot of business owners. This job is for business owners. I put the two together and I ran with it. And that panned out to almost nothing. Funny. I don't know how that happened, but I used all of his connections. Almost all of them either didn't qualify or didn't meet requirements, too many employees. So that was pretty discouraging. But I just kept running with it. I saw the opportunity. I saw what was possible with this program. So I just kept going for it. I started here in Utah. Everyone else my age, so Isaac's team, they were out in area in Texas. So I was alone in Utah doing it. I was just self-motivated going through the whole thing. And I found this book. So Dylan Mon actually recommended this book called The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. I don't know if you guys have heard that book, but it basically just tells you to, instead of like reducing a goal, you increase your actions. So 10 times whatever actions you're taking. So I started doing that. I started going to more people, visiting more businesses every day, staying organized, planning, doing all this. And about 4 months into this, I looked back at what I had done, and I could hardly see any success from 4 months of working my butt off. So I decided to make the decision to go out to Texas with Isaac and his team and start working out there. And another month out there, I was not having success. I was broke at the time. My mom was Venmoing me gas money just to get through the week to visit these different businesses. I was eating like as cheap as I could. I didn't have money before this job, so I was just living off of what I had. And my mom, she's like my number one supporter, but she was texting me just that she thinks I should be done with this job. She saw like how much effort I put into it, and nothing has really come from it. But I knew like how much potential there still was out there. So I was 5 months in. I hadn't had much success myself. I'd seen other people have success, so I didn't know what the problem was. But one thing that helped me a lot is I like to look at proof of concept. So I was looking around at what the top reps had done to be successful. Because if you look around at people who are successful, you can copy what they have done, put it in your own model, and then usually you'll be successful. It doesn't work for everyone, but what I did is I looked at the top reps in the company, so what they were doing to be successful. So I reached out to Isaac. I was asking him what he was doing to be successful, and he was mentioning that there's this franchise that he got in with called, I don't know if I can say their name.
You don't have to say their name, but well, it's a group of company, a group of businesses in a certain industry.
Yeah, and they had high employees, they had large credits, and it was working out really well for them. So I was in Texas, Dallas, Texas, and I wasn't having much success in person in Dallas, Texas. So what I decided to do is look at proof of concept, and I started calling these home healthcare franchises in other states and just cold calling them just to try something new. I saw proof of concept. I saw it work for him. So I'd call them. I would say, hey, we're working with other people in your franchise. I can connect you with some people we've helped, and that just clicked for me. So to this day, 95% of the success I've had, 95% of what I've generated comes from that decision to pivot and to start focusing on that aspect. And I learned it's a lot more effective than driving 20 minutes to a business the owner may not be in. I learned it's a lot more effective to make 20 calls in 20 minutes. You're contacting so many more businesses. You're reaching more owners. So that worked out for me. I ended up getting with some really good referral partners, working through their network, and eventually finding success. But it was that point at 5 months where I had to make a decision if I was going to give up or keep going and find a way to push through it. And luckily, I didn't choose to give up. So that's just a little bit of the background with this job for me. And I think people out there who may not be having the most success they want right now, my suggestion would be look at proof of concept, look at what's working for other people, and find a way to replicate it into your own workflow. Make it personal to you, but look at what's working for other people.
No, I love that. So I want to say something to the listeners so they understand something too. When you came on, there was no W-2 program. And so for those first months that you were going through, there was nothing coming in on the other side unless you were producing it. And the amount everyone's a little bit different with their learning curve and things like that. It's not that Ryan wasn't bringing business in. It's just we were so young in the program, we didn't really understand which businesses you should be targeting. And so it wasn't that you weren't having success on the front end. It was just you were looking in the wrong places, and that wasn't really anybody's fault. But but one thing I love that you said was, and it sparked something in my head. So I'm hoping. So now there's kind of like the outreach agents that go out and they bust it every day and they're doing awesome. Like they're working hard and everything. But there's something that I'm noticing when I get on the calls when they're talking about their numbers. And I promise you, this is not just for the outreach agents, because everyone in this company, this principle applies to every single person listening. But there's a quota of 20 businesses talked to, right? So I'm just going to put a scenario out there, and I want to hear your answer because I think I know what it's going to be. So if you were an outreach agent and your job was to create as many accounts as you could, okay? So you make more money the more appointments that you set. Now, if you went out there and for 5 days in a row you talked to 20 businesses and you only set one appointment each day. So you had 5 appointments at the week and you talked to 100 businesses. Mm-hmm. If your goal was to create as many appointments as you do, what would you do that next week? What would you commit to over the weekend, and what would you go execute that next week?
So most importantly, what we're trying to accomplish is we're trying to find businesses that are eligible. We're not trying to just go out to every business and find out which ones won't qualify. We want to know which ones will qualify and target those ones. So what I would do is I would evaluate how the week went. How did you get those 5 businesses? What separated those 5 businesses from the other 95? And look at that. If it's the same industry as the other 95, then maybe it's just a numbers game. But if there's something that separates those 5 from the other 95, find out what that is and target that. It's all about like evaluating what you did, what you can improve on, and then implementing that into your next week. So what I would do is I would just evaluate how the week went, what separated those 5 from the 95, and then try to replicate that. But also what can increase your success is going to those 5 that you have the appointments with and giving them a good experience, because you never know if they'll give you referrals. Referral game will trump cold contacting any day.
I love that you just said that, and I didn't know that's where you're going to go. But one of the things I wanted to talk about with you, and I'm going to jump forward to this right now, is I talk about a lot being you got to be desperate for sales. Now, desperate isn't a negative word all the time, right? But when I'm going out and I'm going to be prospecting for something, I am so focused on that thing, and I have one goal in my head, and it has nothing. I don't get distracted by my phone. I don't get distracted. I don't let weather be an excuse. I don't let gas in my car. Nothing can stop me from my goal in front of me. But I call it being desperate for sales. I need to find a way, no matter what, to go get. Like if I was an appointment setter, an outreach agent, I would every single day I'd be like, I am not going home today until I have at least 4 appointments set. I don't care how I have to do it, but if I commit to that, then it's going to force me to be creative in my approach, right? And it's going to force me to be 100% on my game every business I walk into, because I need to get at least 4. Right? One thing you're amazing at is you're creative in your approaches. You're willing, you will do things that I like, and you can't teach it because it's different for every business. But give me one example of a business that you did something creative, you brought them something, or just a time that you kind of thought outside the box, other than just walking like the same approach that you just gave to the 12 businesses before. Give me an example of something creative that you've done, that led to like a deal. Yeah,
I'd be happy to. So first thing that comes to mind when you say that is I love crumble cookies. That's something I've always loved. So what I will do with a lot of the referral partners I work with is when they sign their deal, I DoorDash them a box of crumble cookies and I just congratulate them. And that is something that they probably don't run into a lot. They probably never run into it from a tax firm. Like, who sends them cookies? No one. So I did that with a few businesses in Pennsylvania that I worked with. I just DoorDashed them a box of crumble cookies, maybe $15 to send those. One of the referral partners loved it so much, not even like the cookies themselves, just the thought of it. So just being genuine with them. We built a really good friendship, and they ended up referring over 15 to 20 businesses. So that box of crumble cookies led to thousands and thousands of dollars of personal deals. So
no, I love that. And then another thing that I noticed that you do, it's funny because I kind of feel like this is a little bit all over the place, but these are all things that like I've watched you do, and I'm just like, gosh, that's brilliant for a 20, 21-year-old to like think this way. Another thing that I've noticed that you do is with your referral partners, you just talked about with referral partners. So you get specific with them of what you're looking for. You don't just say, hey, just send me businesses that have W-2 employees that haven't done this before. Gosh, you might have to weed through a bunch of stuff, and you spent 5 months weeding through a bunch of stuff. So that's not worth the time to go through that. And so you get specific with your referral partners. Give me an idea of like the direction that you give your referral partners.
Yeah. So I like to have a call with them, right when I'm talking about the referral program. And I like to paint a picture in their mind of how successful the referral program can be. So I'll give them, this is usually what I'll do. I'll say there's 2 types of people in a referral program. There's a person that will just refer a few just to like be nice, or there's someone who can get serious about a referral program. And then I'll give them an example of someone that's taken the referral program to heart and how much success they've had. So I paint that picture in their mind, showing them how much potential money could be out there for them and their friends. And then what I'll do is I'll look at their industry and like their connections they have, and I'll go research on my own to make it easier for the business owner. I let them look at their own network, but then I'll ask Like, for example, the franchise I'm working with, the Home Instead. I'll look at other franchise owners in the same state as them, and then I will create a list, and I'll send that list to this owner that I'm working with and say, hey, do you know any of these owners? They're same franchise as you, same state as you. Do you have any connection to any of these owners? Or can I use your name as a reference to these owners? So I try to make it as easy for the referral partner as possible, but also paint that picture in their mind so they can see what success they can have.
That is so cool. We've talked about referrals, but usually you ask referral. When anybody gets asked, tell me a friend or whatever. Yeah, sure. Like, I'll get back to you, right? You've just like given it to them in a basket. That is awesome. All they have to do is say, yeah, I know these three. Like, there's no way that's not more successful than just waiting for somebody to refer. That was really gold right there.
Racket. Hey, in honor of that,
dude,
we're going to take a little break because we don't always get brought gifts, but Ryan brought us each a gift today. He brought us a Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar with strawberries and cream. On 3, we're going to open this. We want the listeners to enjoy it with us. 1, 2, and 3.
Good job, Jared.
Sorry, I can't have one.
Jared has heartburn.
Yep.
Hey, while we're pausing on that too, one thing that's a couple of things is we're just sitting here listening to Ryan talk. You're incredibly smart. The way your brain works, you're seeing like bigger picture things and how to maximize stuff, right? That crumble cookies thing, probably a lot of people would go, okay, I got something out of this. This client signed, I'll send them something, right? You are that way even when it isn't successful, because during this 4 months when you were still fighting for it, you brought me in a case of drinks. You brought me like an $80 Sims fishing summer hoodie shirt. And he said, thank you so many times that I remember going back to this part where he was actually suffering. I remember thinking, I want Ryan Clayton to succeed so bad because he has to be the absolute nicest person in this program, bar none. Right. Well, and so he was bringing gifts and things.
I remember that same time he didn't bring me anything. And I remember thinking, oh man, how cool would that be if he brought me something? I hope this guy does good so he has the kind of money that he can start bringing me gifts. But I think that's cool that you did that for Sean, Ryan.
Hey, I thought I brought you some Built Bars.
Oh, he did, and Built Bars too. But what was cool is this. Like one day, hey, he had this appointment downtown, so I drove down, I met him, like we did this stuff. It didn't pan out. The guy had too many employees and entities, right? But that's the thing is that during those 4 months when he was suffering, like the attitude, like a lot of people would have just quit. A lot of people would have just been miserable. During that 4 months is so long when your mom's Venmoing you money, I can imagine, right? But during that time, he was so polite, gracious, like thankful for help that he was getting. And so, of course, that long-term goal of like, he's going to see this through until he finds that one thing, right? Mark Cuban says, you just got to try. All you need is one thing to click, right? Well, you just proved that. You just needed one to click and everything changed, right? But you went through 4 months of trying. But during that time, there's this positive attitude that's important to and integral to how you operate, of where he's still kind and gracious and appreciative of people who are willing to help and support. And with that, I would assume that any help that you wanted, you got, because it wasn't just when he finally succeeded, he was going to let people know how grateful he was. During the time when it wasn't working, he was really cool. You're such a cool guy for that.
Thank you.
So love that.
I appreciate it.
Did you guys just become best friends?
We just did. That was a bonding experience.
Okay. Well, hey, back to ERC. So one thing I do want to touch on, though, if you were in the outreach agent position right now and the quota was 20, one thing that I can promise everybody listening to this right now is if on Monday somebody reported that they had talked to 29 businesses, tomorrow Ryan would talk to 41. He wouldn't just beat you by one. He would not just go do 30, I promise. He would do 41. He'd beat you by 12, and he would create that distance because he would want you to know that he's not just a little better. He's a third better than you. He's 33% better than what your just personal record was. But actually, before Monday, he would have already asked me, what's the most businesses anyone's ever contacted? Because I know there's a numbers game. And he would go beat that his first day because that's who you are. And I know that is what you would do, actually. So take that as another compliment.
Thank you.
Okay, now can we talk about the things he's bad at?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Anything you compete with me in? Bringing me gifts.
I thought I brought you Built Bars.
Bringing Jared Dyer a Dr. Pepper.
I should have.
Yeah,
I
you
have one.
should've.
On
Just joking, Tenderfoot. I got your back.
No, I'm just sticking to water because the acid reflux thing. So.
I get you.
Hey, if all four of us stood on a scale, he'd for sure lose. It'd be the lowest number.
Yeah, you don't even come close. Okay,
I think he
Get
has
outta
the
here.
thickest hair I've ever seen too. So
he does have great hair,
he
but
got me in Trost.
but that's not what I want to talk about right now. The main thing I wanted to get in with you is your what, how, why principle. And so I'm going to turn off my mic. I'm just going to let you go. And I want you to give everyone listening to this. I want you to just talk to them. And this is fantastic. And this is amazing. So for those of you who skip forward to this point, we're at about 30 minutes in the podcast. And I promise this is going to be gold. So the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you so much.
Actually, before you get going, I'm just joking.
Is there anything you want to say?
No, just
okay.
Go.
So I'm really excited to talk about this principle. It's called, I don't know if this is a legit thing. This is just something that I saw once, and I implemented it into my life, and it's helped me a lot. So I call it the what, how, and the why. The reason this is so valuable to me is because whenever I was going through something hard in this job, I was always told to look at my why. Why am I doing this job? And I think that applies to anyone that's going through something hard. That you're working hard at. You got to look at your why. Why are you doing this in the first place? And the value of the what and the how is, what are you trying to accomplish? For example, if you had a goal to make 6 figures, if you wanted to make $100,000, that's cool. You can say that. And if you just write that as a New Year's resolution and then check it at the end of the year, you may or you may not hit it. But what I like to do is I like to create a how. How am I going to hit that $100,000? How am I going to hit that 6 figures? And I like to break it out into months. I like to break it out in weeks, and then I like to break it out in days. So I break it out all the way to the very day, like what actions I need to take every day, and then I implement that into my daily plan. Because that way you're working towards that goal, and you can see it every day that you're working towards that. And then most importantly, the why. Why do you want to accomplish $100,000 in 1 year? Why do you want to accomplish whatever goal you're trying to accomplish? So this is a very personal thing that you can apply to anything. It's not just for work. If you want to accomplish becoming the best basketball player, or you want to lose a certain amount of weight, why do you want to lose this certain amount of weight? How are you going to do it? And if you make a daily goal, it's a lot easier than if you just set a New Year's resolution and then look at the end of the year. So this principle is something that I trained the team on a few weeks ago, or like 2 months ago, actually. And I think it's really valuable to anyone who implements this in their life.
Love that. So one thing that came to my mind as you were saying that is, and it aligns perfectly with what you said, is so when I have a goal, I write that goal down, and then I turn that goal into a question, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, if my goal is, just for instance, if we're talking about money, is I want to make $100,000. Okay, cool. Then I turn it into a question. How can I make $100,000? And I give myself, 10 different, 20 different, whatever that number is. I have a specific number, but I'm not saying there needs to be a specific number. It's up to you. But I write the 20 different ways I could get to that goal, right? And then I look at my current situation. I match up the 5 that fits best with my current situation. And then I break it down to which was realistic, and it helps me find the how, right? That's how I find my how. To write a goal and you get excited and motivated is amazing. It's a huge part of the process, but unless you know what you need to go execute to hit that, that's where you win. And then what you're talking about, where you're breaking it down into, even in this job, I go hourly. So when I'm on the doors, like, and to illustrate what you're talking about, when I'm on on the doors on Sunday, I know exactly how I'm going to go into, I'm an outreach agent. This is exactly how I would implement what Ryan just said. Sunday night, I would say, I want 20 sets this week. Okay. And then I would say, how can I get 20 sets this week? And then I would write it out, and I'd be like, cool, hit more businesses, get more targeted, I'd write down the 20 different ways. For me, the number's 20. So I'd write down the 20 different ways that I could go get 20 appointments this week. Then I would whittle it down to the one way that I think for sure will get me there, the only thing holding me back is just my effort, right? That's usually the one thing that if I can really commit to something, that I'm willing to do the effort, to go hit it, right? And then I reverse engineer from the number 20 down to each day, each hour that I'm working. How many do I need to do a day? Oh, I need to go get X number per day. Oh, cool. I need to do, 4 a day. If I'm working 5 days. So then I say, cool. Well, I'm going to be on the doors for 8 hours. I'm going to be talking to business for 8 hours. So every 2 hours, I have to get an appointment. So so Monday morning, I would get done with correlation and I'd set 4 alarms. I would literally set 4 alarms on my phone that reset my goals. All right. And then I'm like, cool. Okay. 2 hours. I got to get an appointment. Now I'm not trying to get 20 Monday morning. I'm not trying to get 20 right now. I'm trying to get 1 in the next 2 hours. And then my alarm goes off. And if I already got one, I don't sit around until my alarm goes off. I'm ahead of pace. Dude, I might have a 2-hour stretch where I don't get one. I'm going to go try to get 2 this hour. Then my alarm goes off. Cool. I got a new goal. Bam. Now I love to set them up for me, 90 minutes seems to be the best way to break down my time of goals. Cause ADHD, whatever it is, I've got about a 90-minute attention span. I get to where when I'm in a good rhythm of this, I get to where every time that alarm goes off, I get refocused, I get remotivated, re-energized, and it is crazy how many times the next business I achieve whatever goal I'm doing because I get refocused and re-excited, right? And so that is how, if I'm listening to this podcast and I just listen to one of the top people in our industry and how he does it, and I'm an outreach agent, that is exactly what I would do to implement what Ryan just said. Now, we could go through every department of this company and implement what Ryan just said, but hopefully you guys understand the principle behind what he's saying because it's genius. And that is what sets apart the top producers in any sales organization is a version of what Ryan just talked about. And anyone who discredits that is just lying to themselves because that's the difference. He's not luckier. He doesn't have better connections. I promise you it comes down to what he just said. And we could do 50 different products and 50 different industries, and he'd be one of the top 5 people no matter what we were doing because of that right there. So if you're listening to it, if you were discrediting anything he said, then just be honest with yourself if that's what's missing between you getting the best version of yourself out of you. I promise it is. I love that, dude. I love that. How often do you revisit what your goals are and how often are you self-checking yourself?
I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to add on that. So one thing I was going to say is make sure you're writing this down too. If you create a what, how, and why, write it down. And then what I do is I've had a planner that I've carried with me for the past 2.5 years. It started on my mission. I just kept it with me. Like I kept doing it with this job too, but I have it with me every single day. So I'm visiting it every single day because that's broken out by yearly goals, monthly goals, weekly goals, daily goals. And then on my phone, I have my daily goals broken out by hour, just like you said. So I'm visiting it every day. And one thing that I do personally that I think could be valuable for anyone who's wanting to accomplish something in their life right now is add personal milestones or personal incentives along the way.
Rewards.
That's what motivates me so much. I have a note on my phone. So once I hit a certain milestone, so let's say you're an outreach agent and you want to hit 20 or reach out to 20 people a day, 100 in a week.
Well, 20 is the quota, Ryan.
20 is the quota. Let's say 200 in a week.
Love it. Go on.
If you hit that 200 in a week, reward yourself. You're working hard. You should reward yourself for those efforts. And then set the goal higher. So you're always looking to improve, but you're also rewarding yourself along the way. But going back to your question, I visit it every day.
And how do you hold yourself accountable? What if you didn't follow through? Have you ever had a day where you didn't follow through with what you said you were going to do? You probably have, right?
Yeah.
So how do you hold yourself accountable? Do you let Sean punch you in the face? Like, what is it that you do?
No. So actually at the bottom of my journal that I use every day, my planner, I have 3 things at the bottom. I have 3 letters that I have. It's GWI. The first one's for gratitude, what I was grateful for that day. W is for what went well that day. I is for what I can improve on. So if I didn't hit a certain thing throughout the day, I put that on my I for improve. And then my very first thing when I'm planning that night is whatever I didn't achieve, I'll put that as my goal for the next day. So say I was trying to reach out to 30 people in one day. I only reached out to 25. I'm going to make sure that the next day I make up for the 5 that I didn't reach out to. So that's going to be my very first goal, is to recover from whatever I didn't accomplish that day.
That's funny. I always say when I have a bad day, all I can do to make it better is go get a sale. Like if I was an outreach agent and I ever bageled or got 0 appointments, well, number one, that probably means I talked about 50 business that day, because I probably would be going till like 10 at night, because I promise you I probably wouldn't stop until I got one, right? I'd be going into restaurants that were open late or whatever. Any business with a light on, because I know for me, if I go home with a 0, I'm not good at giving myself a pat on the back for hard work, right? So, the only way for me to feel better would be to go get an appointment. And so probably about 4 a.m, when I still hadn't slept, I probably would wake up. I'd probably do my morning routine earlier, and I would probably be on the doors by like 8 o'clock in the morning, just trying to find that first deal, because I'm not going to feel better until I make up for what I'm feeling bad about. Right. And so that's what you're saying, is you don't give yourself a pass. You actually atone for it. You actually go make up for
make up for it.
And then you're not giving yourself a pass of, oh, well, I made up for it, but I got 2 appointments there, so now I can take my foot off the gas today. That, again, such an important principle of somebody not willing to settle for just what came to them that day. They're going to go get what they're going to earn, and I love that.
In the beginning, I asked if you were capable of losing, like how you lost, right? That's really where we got to, because the truth is you can only understand why somebody's successful if you also understand why people fail. You have to see both sides of it, right? And you always want to think positive. You always want to only visualize success, but not be afraid to get hurt along the way or whatever, right? But you only visualize success. And so I always would like to view things in the way of like a championship as opposed to every single game. Obviously, you win championships by winning games, but to win 100% of everything in your entire life all the time is just not possible, right? And so the best thing you can do is I love that at the end of the day, there's a spot for that. What can I improve on, right? And then analyze it and make an improvement, recognize it, because you understand how to be successful when you understand what doesn't work too. So excellent.
Thank you.
Hey, am I your favorite person to lose to? Like, if you're going to lose to somebody at something, am I your favorite, or?
I would rather lose to someone that wouldn't talk about it again.
Hey, because Trust and I have been friends forever, right? And I used to, on the way home, we lived by each other. I would stop at his house on the way home, and we'd play foosball in his garage. We played a lot of foosball. My wife would text me, "Where the heck are you?" She didn't know I was like 5 houses away just playing foosball. Oh, I'm almost home. Anyways, I would never beat Trost, and all I wanted to hear was, you remember what I would ask you? Just tell me I'm at least the best competitor. Like, I know I can't beat you, but tell me I'm the number one competitor.
The most tenacious. Yeah. Better than Ryan. I will tell you that. Okay, Ryan, I could keep going for a long time with you, just because my favorite thing is you're 21, dude. Your business intelligence and your EQ and everything is just like fantastic. Like you're obviously you're going to do some amazing stuff, and hopefully it's here for a long time. Right. So, but the last thing I want to go over is just my favorite thing about you is that learning curve piece, right? Like honestly, in my mind, I never would look at the leaderboards I never gauged your potential from the results that you were getting at the start of this campaign. I promise you I didn't. I knew that you were going to be really good, and there was zero doubt in my mind that you were really good. I told you that every time I talked to you. I'm like, dude, you're going to be like the best at this, I promise, right? Like it's very obvious to see it. But really successful people, they're not used to not being really good at things really fast. And I've seen you do things like the first time, and you're always really good the first time. Like you're always almost as good as I was my first time. And that's why I recognize it. No, but for you to go through a learning curve that long and to stick with it, and then to have the success you've had, is like my favorite thing about you. And I promise you, I appreciate it, because I don't think there's very many things in your life that you don't do a good job at for that long that you would stick to, which again, I mean, there's a million tangents we can go there, but there's somebody listening to this podcast during working hours right now, because they've justified in their head that a better use of their time today is listening to this podcast than just going and talking to more businesses. So first off, I want you to know that you're wrong. There's nothing better you could be doing today than talking to business owners. The second there's no business owners to talk to, that's when you should listen to this podcast, right? So, or anything else that you're letting yourself distract yourself with or justify not talking to business owners with, or not closing a deal, or not uploading docs, or whatever it is, right? So, but to that rep who's they've been going for 3 weeks and they're working really hard. They are working hard. And they feel like they're getting better, but like it's not showing on the leaderboard or on the scorecard or whatever, a scoreboard. We used to have something called the motivational minute, and I let Brady do this too, and I kind of like it. So what you get to talk to that rep right now, like sitting in their car, wondering if they should get out of the car, wonder if they should just convince themselves that I'm going to work harder than I've ever worked tomorrow. But today I'm going to go home and really like study something, which is the worst thing you could do, I promise. But yeah, what is your advice to that rep? Well, first off, I would tell them that complaining is not going to ever improve their situation. So if you're complaining, it'll never get you out of where you're at. What if it's just self-complaint? What if on the outside you're positive, but your self-talk is super negative? That's something you need to fix internally. I think that ties into your why also. If your why is strong enough, then your actions will follow. So I think it goes down to your why. But most importantly, I would ask them what they have tried before. So look at what they've been doing. And then I would recommend what I did, which was look at proof of concept. Go meet with someone who's having success in this program. Go look at it. If you're an outreach agent, go to an outreach agent that you know is having success. Ask them what they are doing, and then implement that into what you're doing. Ask to shadow them. People love to be congratulated for what they're doing. So if you go to someone who's having success, congratulate them, and then ask for tips. So I would recommend just go to someone that you look up to and analyze what they're doing and implement it into your life. And yeah, I would just say run with whatever you got. Just don't give up. That's the biggest thing, is don't give up. I love that. Sean?
Goes without saying. It's been said throughout this whole thing, but we haven't like just said it blatantly. You're so smart, and you've offered so much valuable information on how to do things properly, and none of it matters unless you put one foot in front of the other. And I can't think of a rep that from the very beginning of the program, we didn't know what they were. Sarah Horrocks, tenacious, right from the beginning. Isaac Mon, right from the beginning, right? Sharon Dominguez, like we can go back and see it. And yours wasn't by the data. It wasn't by the numbers, but just watching you work, like we knew, right? And so all of this information doesn't mean anything unless, like you said, during the time that you can work, you have to work, and you are a very hard worker. And it goes without saying, but like, that's where it all hits the road, right? You just got to do the work. Yeah, I've seen you on the phones, dude. Like, you're tenacious and you are nonstop. You don't hang up the phone, and then like, if you treat every the next phone call the same, whether you just got yelled at or whether you got a deal, you're on to the next call. You don't take victory laps. You don't waste your time. You don't get distracted. And I love it. It's amazing. So you guys, the last thing I would say, and probably the reason why the majority of people are listening to this is, is this guy married? Is he dating anyone? So you are, Isaac might be above you on the leaderboards of the ERC credits, but you are above him on the leaderboards of ERC Pros most eligible bachelors. And I just to answer the question before it gets asked 100 times, the way that you submit your application, is those actually go directly. We want to, have those applications go directly to Tenderfoot. Tenderfoot does the pre-qual.
I'll take them gladly. I'll screen everything, make sure that they qualify.
Exactly. And, Ryan doesn't only enjoy giving gifts to some people, but he also likes receiving them. And so the way to Ryan's heart is through like very expensive gifts.
If you get a box of crumble cookies from Ryan, you'll know that you're winning the contest.
Exactly. And if you're listening to this podcast, Do yourself a favor and watch it on YouTube.
Let's be honest. All right, Ryan, thank you so much, dude. Honestly, you're one of my favorite people I've ever worked with, like ever. And I'm not just saying that. Like, I really enjoy working with you, but I also love surrounding myself with like-minded people that like push me to be better too. And you do that for everybody you're around. So I really appreciate that. Thank you for working so hard and being so open about your success here. I love, dude, when reps come on and share their best practices and they're open and honest about it. I hope everyone listening took like 5 or 6 things from this podcast that they can implement that will bring them more success, like immediately. You really could with a lot of that stuff. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much.
All right.
I appreciate it.
Tenderfoot, take us home.
Ba-ba-ba-boom.